Welcome back to Lokumo Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us again today on this episode. Today we have a very good conversation again. Dr. Matteo, you are welcome once again.
Thank you, Lukuma. Let's carry on with this journey of ours of remembering. And to remember who we are, we need to remember to reflect back where we come from and where we're heading, because knowledge is power and power is liberating self. So there's nobody out there to liberate except we have to liberate ourselves. We're going through a great shift as humanity. This great shift where it's the shift from Piscean age and the age of Aquarius. We actually moving into the age, we've stepped into the age of Aquarius. So before I actually go deep into explaining that, there are certain terminologies that I need to actually clarify so that we all in sync with the message. I want to clarify the terminology of the astrological age. An astrological age is a time period in the astrological theory which is parallels major changes in the development of Earth inhabitants. Particularly, it relates to culture, society, and politics. We all know, I'm assuming, that there are 12 astrological ages corresponding to the 12 zodiacal signs in the Western astrology. So we'll look into the Western astrology because it will make things complex if we look at all the other astrology. So one cycle of the 12 astrological ages is called a great year. By that, I'm meaning that the length of one cycle of 12 ages is estimated to be rounded. When we round it off, it's estimated to be 26,000 years. So how do they arrive at that 26,000 years? Is because the astrological age, it's about 2,150, but when we round it off, we could say 2,000 on an average for each zodiac sign. And there are 12 zodiac signs. So when you multiply that, it will give you the great year, which will be 26,000 years. So just to recap once more, that to arrive at 26, which is the great year, it's actually multiplying the 12 zodiac signs, which is 2,150, and then multiplying it by 12, then it's going to give you 26,000 years, which is a great year. So the ages in average, when we round it off, we could say 2,000 years. And the ages, they are neatly aligned. So if the first zodiac is Aries, we found that the age of Aries was found to have been established from 2000 BC to 1 AD. So we'll start with that one. Okay, it doesn't mean the counting started then. We're starting with the Western Gregorian calendar of working on the time. So we'll say 2000 BC to 1 AD, after the birth of Christ, it was the age of Aries. And then from 1 AD to 2000 years, it was the age of Pisces. So now where we are, from 2000 AD to 4000 now, we are in the age of Aquarian. So when we know where we're coming from and where we're heading, it makes things easier to understand that The Piscean age ran through for 2,000 years. And the Mayan prophecy, when they were saying, when we thought it's the end of the world and whatever, around 2012, it was just saying it was a transition into the Aquarian age, which is running from 2000 to it will be running 2000 to 400 years, okay? In the Western calendar, okay? So the other thing we need to understand is that each age is actually influenced by its opposite. When we had the age of, currently we are in the age of Aquarian, and the opposite thereof of Aquarian, polar opposite, is the age of Leo. So which means they always opposite, it will always have its opposite, the polarities that is balancing the other. The age of Aquarian now, which is, it's running, its opposite, which its opposite sign thereof, it's the age of Leo. And when we go back to the age of Leo, we're talking about the golden age that existed during the era of Atlantean civilization. So that period then, it was called the golden age. We are in that, reliving that golden age of the Atlantean because of the polarity of the Aquarian and the Leo zodiac signs. So that's what I wanted to explain so that the terminology is understood. So I'm going to throw it to you, Lukuma, so that if you can understand what I'm saying, I'm assuming that I'm being heard. And if you're not, it means I must try and explain.
No, it's actually clear on my side. But again, as we have different kind of people visiting us and watching, I think they will need a little bit of more explanation if really needed. But yeah. So basically, the ages that we talking about um the period, if I may say, in a most understandable language of our modern world. So we're dealing with you know, um, kind of like a time frame. So those time frame indicate different kind of civilizations and the lifestyle and you know, things like that. So to be specific, right now in this age, right where we are now, which is the age of Aquarius. So you may see different kind of things happening. You may see different mood. You know, there's a shift actually, as Dr. Matteo says, you know, in the opening, there's a shift that's happening, and most people are recognizing it. Most people who are not even, you know, uh, are not even presented to this kind of information. They also understand like what's happening, and they can feel the shift. Recently, I think it was 2 days ago, I was with somebody, and they were like, you know, there's a shift, there's something that's happening, it's very different. I feel like life is not the same anymore. I told that person, I said, yes, that's true, because now it's a different age. We are experiencing a
Mm.
different, you know, a different this is a whole different experience. You might not see it physically, but mentally and from the conscious level, it's happening, it's shifting. So we have to shift, we have to move along with that. So if you're not aware, or if you're not conscious enough, you might be left behind. So the earth is moving, it's going into another higher dimension. So we have to move with that. If you don't, then you're obviously devolving. So it's actually is
Mm.
up to you. That's why this kind of information is very important to listen and do a little bit of more research on your side, you know, to stay awake. So it's not all about the new movement, the new age, the awakening. It's not about that. It's more about what is actually taking place in the universe,
Yes.
you know. So we have to pay attention to the universe, the signs, to you know, yeah, I mean, we can get more deeper, but keeping it on a surface level. So we
Yes.
actually dealing with time frame and um different you know to find a very light word is a little bit difficult, but we're dealing it's a very different time frame that we're living in. So you have to tap in and stay away.
Thank you for elaborating, and thank you for closing the gap, and thank you for expanding, because I needed you to expand so that it's heard from perspective, and I appreciate what you've just done. So the great shift from Piscean age to the Aquarian age, just to get into that, we have shifted and we continue to be shifting, okay? The transition of the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, we continue to experience and witness battles, conflict of different systems within ourselves. We, as individuals, we're going through turmoil. We're going through inner conflict, because not only is our planet going through a great shift, but we as individuals, we also going through our own shift, because we are of Earth. We are of Earth. We are part of the great shift. So it's not only isolated. We are one. We are all in this together. As Mother Earth is going through her own shift, and we are the children of, we come from her womb. We also going through this shift. So the turmoil that we tend to think via media that there's chaos, there's turmoil out there, the world's continents, people are fighting and all that. It's a projection of the inner turmoil. It's a projection of the inner conflict. When you are not able to come home to self and embrace this great shift, you will spit the vermin to the platform, to the world, because it's so deep within you that you're not able to reconcile with the shift within you, that you need to vomit it to the world. And this is what we're experiencing, the vomit of the toxin of our own inner conflict thrown to the platform, which is our planet, our world. That's the source thereof. So how do we heal? How do we come to healing and awakening to this great shift? If we can come to the realization that the world is no longer how we used to think it was, there's a shift, and the shift is not external, it's internal. So which means healing starts from within. Healing starts from when you reconcile with self, when you embrace the shift, okay? So the turmoils that we observing, it's not only what we see out there. What we see and we think it's out there, it's actually a projection of what is happening within each and every individual, and it's thrown to the platform. And which platform is that? Our great mother, our planet Earth. Key, the blue pearl. Okay, so we'll realize that there's how can I say? It's like there's a wave. There's a wave that is running. There's a wave that is saying it's time to embrace change. It's time to move. It's time to move forward. Keep moving forward. It's time to be in the flow with the energy of the great shift. And there's also another wave in this octave wave where it says there's resistance to change. And this conflict arises when one apply resistance, when you repel, because we are electromagnetic beings. When the wave, instead of riding with the wave of change, there's resistance, and that resistance disrupts the harmonious flow of energy within, and that energy within is the energy that is also should be in sync with the energy externally, which is the platform, the physical platform that we are in. And that the inner the inner turmoil spill over to the platform outwardly. So the spirit of embracing the change, the energy of being in the flow, be in the flow. I always say to myself, and I'll extend that to all others, be in the flow and take the path of the least resistance, like water. Be in the flow and glow, knowing thyself as the children of the law of one. So the energy now that is that are in opposition, you either embrace change or resist and stick on and resistance to change, which will result in stagnation. And you'll find people who are rooted in traditions. This is how it has always been done, and it must be done that way. That creates a problem. This great shift is about the mind, awakening that the mind it's not just about the brain. It's the change, the great shift is where the mind versus the soul or your divinity, the mind versus the soul or the divinity or the God, or the soul versus the machine. With technology, you can see artificial intelligence and all that. We're going through that. There's nothing mystical about this. What is happening is what's meant to happen, okay? And this great shift also ushers us with the possibility for joining the spiritual to the collective. It is a time in which, as individuals and collectively, we're longing for transcendence, which means, when I say transcendence, it means we've been so hooked up into the material plane, and we realize there's life beyond the material plane. This is not only it, there's life beyond the material plane. So we're longing for that divine connection. We're longing to surpass or transcend or to marry the physical and the spiritual, and not always divide them. We're also going through now where the barriers which were rooted in the Piscean age, where people were identified according to the barriers that were used to, which I said classification. It was about you are so and so. Because you are named as such, it doesn't mean you are that. Because I'm Mmatheo, it's just a name. Because I'm Dr. Motsisi, it's just a social role. Because I'm a healer, those things are just tags. It's a tag, but it's not me. It's just a social role that I'm playing while I'm occupying this physical body. But beyond this body, I'm greater than the so-called Dr. Motsisi or Mmatheo or a healer or whatever. It's just a social role. So we all play social roles. People have been identified or classified according to race. It means nothing in this age that we're moving in. Race, it means nothing. That's been all these things that were used as barriers: identity, race, color, and social status. They mean nothing. Your social status in this age of Aquarius means nothing, because we all equal and we all one. It means nothing. The only thing you should be aware of is that you're playing a social role in the physical body that the spirit has chosen to use as a vehicle. But there's nothing special about it, about the role. We are going we are in an era where we are encouraged as a spiritual being to embrace our state of oneness, to realize that in oneness we exist, and to strive towards eternal universal connection, and to let go of the created barriers of identity, race, color, and social status, because they mean nil, zero, nothing. So I will briefly explain on the age of Pisces. And the age of Pisces, the polar thereof, Pisces was sharing, its opposite sign was Virgo, the Virgin. The Pisces ran through for 20,000 years. And it was rooted more in the monotheistic religions, the Abrahamic religions. It's the group of monotheistic religions where they endorse the worship of the god Abraham. That is Judaism, Christianity, and Islamic religion. If you are not aligned with that, you are classified as a pagan, or something was wrong with you if you are not actually aligned with that style of worship. There was always Piscean for the scholars. The biggest aspect was between science and religion. And it was an age where if you wanted to connect with the divinity, if you wanted to connect with the greater I am, if you wanted to connect with a God, you needed to have an intermediary. You needed to go through a so-called guru, a pastor, or whoever. There had to be somebody who will be an intermediary between you and God. And that's coming to an end because by the way, the line, that the divinity, there's a direct line of communication to the greater I am and the God. You don't need somebody to stand in between you and God. 24/7, the line is open. This was also marked by Piscean age, was marked by the following. The concept of the birth of Christ. No wonder Piscean age started from 1 AD to 2000 AD, after the birth of Christ. You can understand. So it's like everything was running on the wave of Christ consciousness. It was marked by the founding of the church, and many were oppressed. If you are a shaman, if you are embracing polytheistic religion, there were things that were done. People were classified as witches, were practicing magic or whatever. If you are not aligned with the monotheistic religion, you are oppressed for believing in or practicing things differently from what's considered the norm. It was also marked by the establishment of one fundamental religion. And what dominated then? It's Christianity. The energy that was running with the Piscean age was actually promoting forgiveness, empathy, innocence, love, and devotion, concept of good and bad. For people to know what is good, it needed to be seen through the eyes. It's either bad or good. There had to always be a division. There always had to be a division. The concept of heaven and hell, division. The concept of the sin and the sacrifice. The concept of you were told you came into this world in your purest of your purest as a soul. Now you are born into sin. You must go through forgiveness. I don't know forgiveness of what. I still fail to understand when I'm born as a pure being in the end, in the purest of my essence. Why will I have to go through so many processes to renounce sin? A child who's born must renounce sin. Sin of what? What sin are we renouncing? The Piscean age was dominated by hierarchy and power and secrecy. Things were kept in secret. And the secrecy, why it was practiced? It was practiced because it was designed deliberately for the removal of the spiritual knowledge and the occult knowledge. There's nothing sinister about occult knowledge. Occult knowledge means the power of the mind. There's nothing sinister or people must be fearful about it. It was just something we're programmed that we need to stay away from that. And this spirituality, the deep-rooted aspect of spirituality, I'm not talking about religion. Religion It's like, when you're following a religion, you need a roadmap, moral codes. You need to be told how to behave, how to act, the do's and don'ts, the do's and don'ts, the do's and don'ts. So I cannot understand how a person can relate to self and experiment and experience life as a spirit in a physical body when you are obeying the rules. Do this, don't do that. Do this and do that. As a free being, as a free spirit, are we not, is it not our divine right and heritage to experiment and experience life and exploit to the fullest without having to be told, don't do this, do that? How are you going to awaken to self-knowing and experiencing the God in you if you are restricted in how you should actually experiment with the sacredness of this life? So, any form of spiritual practice that was not upholding the belief of the monotheistic religion as the primary pathway to knowing self as a God in relation to the Supreme Spirit acquired degrading labels such as magic, witchcraft, shamanism, paganism, primitive fetishism, idolatry, ancestor worship. You had to toe the line through during the Piscean age. I lived through that. I was born in the 60s, the era of the rebels. I think it makes me one because I was born in the late 60s. That was the era of the rebels, the era of the hippies. And I'm glad I was born through that because it's good I chose to incarnate during that time because the era itself was so suffocating. So by the time in the 60s, and it's the rebel and it's the hippies, and I chose to once more visit Earth, I think it was like, okay, it's a short run of the marathon. It's not a long one. And we're moving through the awakening. So the powers of the mind, I want to say this before we get cut off. The powers of the mind, which is occult knowledge, and the soul are very real. It's not something to play with. They're very real. And they were held as a secret so that humanity is not aware. And let me bring this to the attention of everyone who's listening. People who are aware of or who do not believe in these powers, occult knowledge, and the depth of spirituality, as it was kept as a secret to the masses. If you are not aware or you don't even believe in these powers, you actually crippling yourself. Because those who understand occult knowledge and the depth of spirituality are able to use those for benevolent purposes, and others are using them for malevolent purposes. It depends whom you want, which in us, there's that polarity in us. There's a light part of ourselves, and there's the shadow. So if you serve the shadow, you will use the occult knowledge to propagate darkness. And if you are aligned with the light in you, you will use that as a beacon of light, knowing thyself as the sons of sons. I love the emerald tablets of Thoth when he says, we are the children of light, the children of light. The sun in us, we have the inner sun, just like planet Earth. In the underworld, it has its own sun. So you are the son of suns. You are a beacon of light. So those who are knowledgeable with this occult knowledge and the deeper aspect of spirituality are able to tap into that. And those who don't believe in that, let me say this once more. If you don't believe in that, and you're still buying into those do not exist, these powers are easy to be used by those who know to control and manipulate those who still believe they are non-existent. So, Aquarian age, if you want to reclaim your power, there's a call to awaken and to come to a deeper understanding of what is spirituality and what is religion and what is occult knowledge. Because when you understand and you've gained that knowledge, which will grant you the power and the knowing thereof, you'll realize that you are the architect of your own reality. You are the creator. You are the god or the goddess. By the way, in this world, everything is gender. You are the god or the goddess.